Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna sayyidina wa sanadana wa shafi'ana Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Faqra'u ma tayassara min al-Qur'an. Sadaqallahul azim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik warham ala abdika wa rasulika Sayyidina Muhammadin nabiyil ummi wa ala alihi wa sallim taslima. Alhamdulillah, we are beginning our Ramadan 1441 2020 series called Gems of the Quran. Today I want to take a little bit of time at the start to explain how this 30-day course will work, inshallah. The first thing is that in some countries of the world, today is the first fast, and other countries of the world, tomorrow will be the first fast. So for some of you, you may be doing this after Taraweeh, some of you may be doing it before Taraweeh, and for some of you, you may not, because of the current situation, be able to pray Taraweeh in a way that you can hear the recitation of the entire Quran. So perhaps then this can be mapped to our own individual tilawa, our own individual recitation and reading of Quran al-Kareem in this month of Ramadan. And obviously all of us will want to have the intention, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the himmah to complete the recitation of Quran al-Kareem at least once. MashaAllah, there are many people in the Ummah who recite the entire Quran al-Kareem multiple times in this month of Ramadan. But at the very least, what we should want is to do it at least once. The second thing is that when I say gems of the Quran al-Kareem, the reality is that every ayah, every harf, every piece of paper on which the ink of Kalamullah is printed is itself a priceless gem and jewel. Every cardboard and leather binding which binds the paper in which Kalamullah is printed is itself a priceless gem and jewel. Any and every cloth carrier or cloth covering or cloth case of every cardboard or leather binding of the Mus'haf Qur'aniyya is a priceless gem and jewel. However, in this sense, but in this course, we are using this word, taking cue from Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, who wrote a book called Jawahir al-Quran, called the Gems of Quran al-Kareem, in which he, and this is something we have taught before, and maybe inshallah we'll teach again, in which he selected certain verses of Quran al-Kareem for certain reasons that he has explained in his book. The notion is that in this month of Ramadan, it is hard to do the recitation, translation, and commentary of the entire Quran. A few years ago, I tried to do that, and I was only able to do half of the Quran in 1 year. This year, what we will be doing, inshallah ta'ala, instead of going through the entire Quran al-Kareem, I'm going to select a few verses in every juz. That way, we can have time to translate and discuss those verses, and that way we can get a detailed understanding of the critical topics that are mentioned in those verses of Quran al-Kareem. There is no perfect way to select verses from any juz of Quran, because the reality is every verse is worthy of selection. And so in some ways I have selected the verses on my own personal experience, or what I felt, what personally resonated with me, or what I felt perhaps may be of relevance to the contemporary times that we live in, or may be of intellectual importance to English educated Muslims, or may be something that can help us develop our spiritual connection and relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or maybe it's a very oft recited, oft quoted, much commented upon verse or passage of verses of Quran al-Kareem. So there are many different ways on the basis of which I made these selections. It's going to be hard, even with selection, to complete one juz every day. Today I will probably use more of the time allotted to me because in many places it's not yet Ramadan, and for the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days I anticipate we may need a little bit more time, because those of you who are, alhamdulillah, mashallah, familiar with the Quran and tafsir, there is a lot of there's a lot of commentary in the first few ajza, the first few siparas, the first few parts of Quran al-Kareem. Once we are able to comment on those topics, then when those topics repeat themselves in later ajza, we won't have to address those verses and those topics. So it may be that in the first, it's almost guaranteed that in the first few days I will end up spending more time than the allotted slot, but inshallah within a few days we will be within our timeline of 3 to 4:45 p.m. inshallah ta'ala. Right. Juz 1 is obviously known as Alif Lam Mim, and this is a juz that all of us should first and foremost be interested in, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to reveal to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam to put this juz at the start of Quran. First thing is that, all of us would know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran al-Kareem throughout the prophetic life of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a period that is around 22 to 23 solar years. The order in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the surahs of Quran and the ayat al-Qur'aniyah is different than the order in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to place those verses and surahs of Quran in the tartib, or the order and sequence that we have. So actually the Quran al-Kareem itself is a testament to two things. Number one, that Allah ta'ala sent wahi of a particular type known as scriptural revelation, which is kalamullah, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the speech of Allah ta'ala. And second, it is a testament that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabuwah, his prophethood, is not confined only to receiving kalamullah from Allah ta'ala, but in addition to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reveal many other things, such as where to place each verse or passage or surah of the Quran al-Kareem. So the miracle of the Quran is that the Quran, the copy of the Quran that we have today, is exactly the same that Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu had, that Sahaba Kiram radhiyallahu anhu had, that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam had. And there was a history, and there's a lot of detail on that in the compilation of it into Musaf Usmani, but the order, the content, the verses, the words, the letters, the ordering, the sequence are all part of the revelation by Allah Ta'ala to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For ease of recitation, the Quran al-Kareem was divided into 30 juz, so those people who wanted to recite the Quran al-Kareem once a month would be able to do so. Beyond that, the division of Quran al-Kareem into 30 juz, or in Urdu they say 30 siparas, has no significance. It's not based on themes, it's not based on content. It has no other significance other than ease to facilitate the monthly recitation of Quran al-Kareem. Alright? The surahs, however, the surah divisions, and there are 114 surahs in Quran al-Kareem, those are important. Those were revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those have significance, sometimes mysterious, unknown, sometimes that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself explained, sometimes that the ulama of tafsir have tried to explain to us. Alright. Now we will move to the first surah of Quran Kareem. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Amen. Alhamdulillah, this is a surah that I think all of us, alhamdulillah, know very well, and we can recite, and we do recite it very frequently. Now, again, because time is short, the content is vast, limitless. Every verse of Quran Kareem has a limitless, endless, infinite, bottomless ocean of meaning and mercy. But I want to talk a little bit about Surah Al-Fatiha at the start. So I'm going to move here now to the next slide. Introduction to Fatiha. Introduction to Surah Fatiha. On a very basic level, know that Surah Al-Fatiha is a Makki surah. In other words, it was revealed before the hijrah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and is one of the earliest verses of revelation. The first verses, as all of you know, is Surah Al-Alaq, surah number 96, Iqra, and then Surah Al-Qalam, surah 68, then Surah Al-Mudaththir and Muzammil, which is Surah 74 and 73 in Quran Kareem. In those, and inshallah we will do that when we come to them, when you look at those surahs and those verses, and those were also, by the way, entire surahs, those are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam directly. In a sense, you can say preparing, outlining what Nabuwa is, preparing Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam for his mission of prophethood and prophecy, and inviting and calling humanity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inviting him to recite and to pray and to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's on the basis of those initial revelations that, as Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala has narrated in his collection of hadith, the Sahih, that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to his wife Umm-ul-Mu'mineen Sayyidah Khadija radhiyallahu anha, and she suggested that they should go to her cousin who was a monk, and by monk he was a rahib, but he was also an alim of an Ahl Kitab. He was a scholar of the pre-Islamic scriptures, the most pristine record of the Injil, the Gospel and Bible, and the Torah at that time. He was one of the leading scholars. And then they went, and he, Waraka ibn Nawfal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he advised Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam not to be scared, because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was scared in the beginning. And he went to his wife because he was scared, and she was a source of solace and support and comfort to him, and she guided him to his source, Waraka radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who reassured Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But here in Surah Al-Fatiha we have a shift. Here now Surah Al-Fatiha, from the first chronological surahs that were revealed, and after Surah Al-Alaq, after Surah Al-Qalam, after Surah Mudaththir, after Surah Muzammil, in Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah Ta'ala is now not addressing Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. The surah is not about Nabuwa or prophethood. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing and guiding all the believers and teaching all the believers how to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But before I talk about that comment, and that is the role of Surah Fatiha in prayer, and before we talk about the role of Surah Fatiha as the opening of the Quran, I want you to pause and still reflect on the seerah, that when Sayyidina Rasul, I want you to imagine when Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam first received the surah, how happy he would have felt. That okay, these other early revelations are telling me Iqra, right? They're telling me to recite, are telling me to stand in prayer. Now Allah Ta'ala is guiding me. What is the first main message I have to give to humanity is Surah Al-Fatiha. And Allah Ta'ala is guiding me, Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet would imagine that he would say this to himself, that Allah Ta'ala is guiding me how I can pray to him, right? How I can turn to him. And there is nobody in the history of humanity who recited Surah Fatiha as beautifully, as passionately, as sincerely, as emotionally as Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And that is a gift that Allah Ta'ala has given us in our salah. Allah Ta'ala chose that all of us, we will also recite Surah Fatiha. Which surah? Yes, the surah that Allah is blessed to be the opening of the Quran, the opener of the Quran, but also that first, earliest, one of the earliest and first revelations sent to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he used first and taught the first way he taught Sahaba to pray to Allah Ta'ala. Me and you are part of that. Now, I think we take this for granted. It could have been that we received something, the Ummah was taught something later in the Seerah, or we received something that happened at the end of the Seerah. So by putting Surah Fatiha in the front of the Quran, it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking all of us along in that journey of Seerah. Allah Ta'ala is taking us all of us along in that journey of coming closer to Allah Ta'ala from the start. Obviously, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq doesn't apply to you and me. We are not going to get wahi, right? We are not going to recite based on what Allah Ta'ala reveals us. Just those first 2-3 passages of Quran are specific to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then immediately then, starting with Surah Al-Fatiha, all of it is addressed to all of us, and it is an invitation also to all of humanity. So this is the historical, if you will, what we call Sabab al-Nuzul in Arabic, the occasion of revelation or the history of the prophetic biography sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Surah Al-Fatiha was revealed. Alright. Now let's look at the content and the translation. So one thing I will mention to you, I will actually not be putting English translation in the text of the slides. I'm going to do that with you verbally. If you want to follow along, I will mention to you, and maybe I will put this up on a slide later, I will mention to you several good translations. There is no single perfect translation of Quran al-Karim in any language, be that English or Persian or Urdu or Spanish, because only the Arabic original is Kalamullah. Any other language is the Kalam of the translator. Yes, the translator would have tried their best. Maybe there was a team of them. Maybe it was reviewed. Maybe there was a board. There were editors. They may try to capture and convey the meaning of Kalamullah in English, but the words they choose is their own Kalam. It's Kalamul Insan. Alright? Some translations which are better, and really, if you really want to go deeper into Quran al-Karim without learning Arabic, because obviously the best way to do that really is to learn Arabic and appreciate the meaning and message of Quran through the original language. But if you want to do that through English, so probably 2 or 3 of the best English translations, the first, and these may be hard to procure in certain parts of the world, I would mention about 4 or 5. One is by Shaykh Ahmed Zaki Hamad, who was a native Arab Egyptian, a scholar from Al-Azhar, also did his PhD at University of Chicago, and his English translation is called The Gracious Quran. Available for purchase, but I don't know if it's available easily on the internet. A second one is by Sheikh Mufti Taqi Uthmani, and the advantage of that translation is that the interpretations, those verses that require a bit of interpretation to understand the meaning, the interpretations are entirely correct. The standard of English, while high, it's a bit short of the other translations that I will mention. But it's good to keep on hand if you're a bit unsure or unclear about the interpretation of a verse. A third translation is by a person who it is as yet unclear whether they are Muslim or not. His name is Thomas Cleary. I think simply on the basis of English, his translation may be the best, but there are a few places where he has slightly misinterpreted or misunderstood the meaning, and that leads to an incorrect translation. Then the fourth one I will mention is by an M.A.S. Abdul Halim, also an Egyptian who is also alive, and that is just called the Quran. There again, the English is very good. There may be a few instances where the interpretation is incorrect or slightly modernist, as they say, and that can sometimes come out in the translation. But if you have these 3, 4, 5 in front of you, then, and so I have looked at them, and I am also sometimes be translating on my own, and I will be doing that for you verbally. Alright? So the translation, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I will comment and translate together. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's very important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us the importance of His name. The name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's also teaching us how to begin. Allah ta'ala Himself is beginning Quran al-Kareem with His name. So that means there's a lot of blessing for me and you to begin everything with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It helps us orient our niyyah and our intention correctly at the outset of every venture, every activity, right? And it teaches us that our hearts should be attached to Allah ta'ala's name. Our tongue should be reciting Allah ta'ala's name. Our deen is based on Allah ta'ala's name. Our connection to deen is anchored in the name of Allah ta'ala. This is why to do zikr of Allah ta'ala's name, which is known as zikr of ism zat, ism mufrad, ism jalala, Allah. Whether you do that zikr with your tongue, Allah, 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 or you do that zikr with your tongue, your heart, you make niyat that your spiritual heart is reciting Allah ta'ala's name, or you do both, that is a very strong way to anchor ourself and our deen and our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah ta'ala mentions first His glorious, majestic, essential, supreme name, Ism Dhat, Ism Jalala, Allah. And this is a special gift to this ummah, because all the other languages, whether you say God, or you say Yahweh in Hebrew, or you say Khuda in Persian or Urdu, none of those words are from Kalamullah or from Allah Ta'ala's created language. The Arabic language is created by Allah Ta'ala and designed by Him to be the language in which He communicates with humanity. And it will be the language that all of the Ahl Jannah will speak. And so the greatest expression of Allah Ta'ala's name is through this name, Allah. Then Allah Ta'ala mentions another fact is that He has sifat, He has attributes. And those sifat are represented by names known as the Asma al-Husna. And which ones does Allah Ta'ala select for us to know first and foremost? Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. So what I'm doing for you, if you see, is I'm doing translation, commentary and vocabulary, the three things on the slide all together right now. You know, sometimes some ulama later they talked about Quranic terms, and one alim he said the 4 Quranic terms. If you were to ask me, the most important Quranic vocabulary is here in Surah Fatiha. Allah Ism Jalala, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Hamd, Rabb, Alameen, the fact that Allah Ta'ala has created a physical universe, Malik, that He is our master, Yawm ad-Din, that there will be a day of judgment, Na'budu, that we are people of ibadah, Nasta'in, that we will need His help, Ihdina, that we need His hidayah, As-Sirat al-Mustaqim, that there is a path that is guided, right? And I'll come to all of this again. And Alladhina anamta alayhim, that there are people who are on the guided path. Al-Maghdubi, there are people whom Allah Ta'ala is angry with. And Dalin, there are people who are not guided, misguided, astray, lost from the path. In Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah Ta'ala has placed the core, critical, foundational concepts and vocabulary of deen. So here, that would be a whole entire course. I have to teach you an entire juz today, so obviously we have to go a little bit fast on Surah Al-Fatiha. Alright? So then Allah Ta'ala mentioned Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So Allah Ta'ala is the being who has attributes. And those attributes pertain to us because we are the objects of His mercy. And in many different ways the ulama have mentioned the difference between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. I will just mention one here. Ar-Rahman means the being who possesses all mercy. Mercy incarnate, the epitome of mercy. And Ar-Rahim is that being who showers that mercy, is the giver of that mercy. So you can imagine, one thing is to say about a person that they have all the money in the world. And a second is to say that they're the most generous in sharing that money in the world. To Ar-Rahman, Allah Ta'ala has infinite mercy, and Ar-Rahim, He is infinitely merciful, infinitely mercy giving. And this is the first and foremost way that Allah Ta'ala wants us to know Him and understand Him. And this is the Fatiha, this is the opening. This is the opening and our human connection to Allah Ta'ala. The fact that Allah Ta'ala is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the fact that He is all merciful and all mercy giving, is what gives me you opening to even dare to stand in Salah and recite Fatiha. It's what gives us even the courage to sit and recite Quranic Kareem. It's what gives us the strength to try to do dars of Quranic Kareem. What is the opening to all of this? What's the opening to us to follow deen? The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Then the next thing Allah Ta'ala mentions, hamd, a very important word. Hamd means praise and shukr. It means all of it together. All praise is only to Allah Ta'ala. Praise itself is proper only to Allah Ta'ala. All praise is due to, all thanks being due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happens here? Here Allah Ta'ala is teaching us this lesson of gratitude that will free us from all of our despair and worry and anxiety, that we should immediately realize that not only is Allah Ta'ala Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, but He has showered all that mercy on me based on all the countless bounties and blessings and ni'mas that He has sent upon me. I'm a living testament to the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. I'm living and drowning in the mercy of Allah Ta'ala, and therefore I can express from my heart, Alhamdu, that all praise and thanks lillahi is only and only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this makes the heart come alive with shukr. This makes the heart come alive with hamd. So the first thing Allah Ta'ala is telling us about Himself and how He relates with humanity is His rahmah with us. And the first thing we feel in our heart for Allah Ta'ala is our hamd for Him. So this is the master attribute. So if you ever want to know, am I close to Allah Ta'ala? Look in your heart. Do you feel the mercy of Allah Ta'ala? And do you feel hamd for Allah Ta'ala? This is where it starts. This is the Fatiha. This is the opening of the hearts. And if you feel, no, I was thinking Allah Ta'ala is angry with me, or why did Allah Ta'ala give me this, or why did Allah Ta'ala give someone else that means you're not realizing Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And if in your heart you're not grateful for all the things He's giving you, you're not feeling hamd in your heart. So if you're not aware of His rahmah on you, and you're not feeling hamd in your heart, know that yes, then you are distant from Allah Ta'ala. And if in your heart you feel, I'm aware of His rahmah, and I'm feeling His hamd, then know that you're close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the next thing Allah Ta'ala mentions about Himself, Rabbil Alameen, that He is the Rabb. The next word is Rabb. In our Quranic vocabulary, Islamic vocabulary, guidance vocabulary, Rabb. That Allah Ta'ala is the Rabb. What does that mean? He is the nourisher. He is the sustainer. He is the upbringer. He is the provider. That's intense. He's individually, closely, directly, personally doing my tarbiyah. I individually fall under His rububiyyah. He is the Rabb. That's a very important thing. It's a very personal thing. And part of that was, yes, all of the bounties and mercies, blessings He gave me. Part of that was that He selected me for Iman. Part of that is He's addressing Quranic Kareem to me. Part of that is He gave me tawfiq to recite Quran or to stand in prayer and recite Quran. All of that is from the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then this word, Al-Alameen. So it's to make us understand that this is now, you will see in Surah Fatiha, the word Khaliq isn't there. The word Khaliq is the attribute of Allah Ta'ala being creator is embedded here. When you do dhikr of the makhluk, you're doing tadhkara of the Khaliq. When you mention the fact that there are alameen, created realms and universes, it's understood that Allah Ta'ala is the being who created them. But Allah Ta'ala wants to know He didn't just create them. He's not an absent God like some of these deists and theists think. He's the Rabb of the alameen. So He created the world, and He knows every single particular atom of the world. He determines everything that happens in the world. He is the ultimate cause of everything in the world. فَعَلْ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. And the other aspect, the other core teaching and concept we get from this word Al-Alameen is that one of the ways we will know Allah Ta'ala, by knowing His name, Allah, by knowing His rahmah, by feeling our hamd for Him, by knowing His Rabb, and also by reflecting on His creation. So the Alameen is all full of evidence and signs of the Rabb of that Alameen. Then Allah Ta'ala again mentions Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Again Allah Ta'ala mentions His nature, that He is all merciful and mercy giving. Now the first thing is simply when you repeat something, it has a further reinforcement. Another way you can look at this is in the first verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, was Allah Ta'ala proclaiming that. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Allah Ta'ala proclaimed it, and we also said it. And Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, now we are also attesting that yes, that being who has given me every bounty and blessing is to owed all praise and gratitude, and that being who is the creator and the Rabb of all the worlds, that being is indeed a being of endless mercy and showering endless mercy. And it also shows that Allah Ta'ala's creation and rububiyyah of the world will be based on His rahmah. It's not just that He Himself is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, but the way that He will do tarbiyah of the alameen, the way He is the nourisher, is based on His mercy. So the entire alameen, created realms, is a manifestation of His mercy, is an object of His mercy. Next is Malik. Malik, that Allah Ta'ala is the master. He is the king, the master, the sovereign. Yawmiddin, and when will that day, when will that mastery and sovereignty be most manifest? On Yawmiddin. Even more than in Akhirah and in Jannah. Allah Ta'ala will manifest to izhar of His majesty and might and dominion the most on that day. As Allah Ta'ala says in Quran, لِمَنَ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ, that to whom has the dominion, sovereignty and rule on that day? To only and only Allah Ta'ala, the one, Allah Ta'ala, the commanding and overwhelming, Al-Jabbar, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So this is then another core aspect of our deen, core aspect of teaching, that it's not just about mercy, it's not just about Him being my Rabb, He's also my master. Therefore, yes, I'm the object of His mercy, I receive His blessings, I express my hamd for Him, He is my Rabb, I know He will do all of that on His mercy, but He's also my master and I am His slave. Malik of the relationship. Malik of the relationship. And then Yawmiddin, and the core teaching that there is a day after we die. There will be life after death. We will be resurrected. There will be a day, and on that day will be about one thing, our deen. We will be judged on the basis of deen. We will succeed on the basis of deen, or we will fail because of our failure in deen. And now I want you to contrast, and luckily it's done here in the slide. Alameen is on top, and Yom is a contrast. Alameen, all of the realms, all of time and space creation. Yom, one particular event in all of space-time, the Day of Judgment. Allah Ta'ala's Rabb of all of the Alameen, and He's also Malik of all the Alameen. But on that one particular event in space-time called Yawm al-Din, Allah Ta'ala is Malik. He will be the absolute master. So then immediately after Malik, what do you see coming? Na'budu, which is from Ibadah, but from the same root as Abd. Iyaka na'budu. Then Allah Ta'ala, given all of these things, you alone do we worship. Given that you are Allah, given that you are merciful, given that you have sent blessings on us, given that all hamd lies to you, given that you created and you are the nourisher of all of the created realms and universes, and that you do all of that through your mercy, and that you are our master, and your mastery will be manifested on the day of judgment. We will be judged on the basis of deen. Given all of that, that is enough for us to make a decision. We don't need anything more. We don't need any more comparative religion course. We don't need any more dawah. Just these verses of Surah Fatiha is enough for us to profess Iyaka na'budu, that to you and you alone will we worship. You and you alone will we become ibad. We will be your slaves and worshippers of you alone. Iyaka na'budu is, if you will, it's like the kalima tawheed here. Iyaka, you alone, la ilaha illallah, na'budu. Wa iyyaka nasta'in, and Ya Allah, not just will we worship you alone, we're going to turn to you only for all of our help. You and you alone will be the being who we turn to for help. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. That you alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek help. Another major aspect here, let me speak on the nasta'in a little bit more. It means that we do not have any ability. We know that, Ya Allah, because of what you have told us thus far in Surah Fatiha, Iyyaka na'budu is the right response. But we're not able to, we don't have that haqiqah. We are not worthy enough, strong enough, determined enough to follow through this mission of being an abd of Malik Yawmiddin, of being an abd of Rabbil Alameen, of being Abdur Rahman, Abdur Rahim, of being Abdullah. We can't do it. We don't have the ability to do it. It's our reality, our haqiqat, but we don't have the ability to do it. Therefore, wa iyyaka nasta'in. So, and there's nobody else who can help us do this. There's no force on earth that could guide us and help us to be your abd. You alone will be the one who will help us to do that. Wa iyyaka nasta'in. And another thing that's important here is the noon. Na'budu and nasta'in. So it's not that you alone do I worship, because I told you in Fatiha, Allah Ta'ala is bringing all of the ummah together. Allah Ta'ala is bringing all of insaniyat together ideally. And so the notion is that we're in this together. It's not just me, that I make a decision, or religion is my personal choice, I choose to believe in Allah Ta'ala. No, na'budu. All of humanity. Because all of humanity is the creation of Allah Ta'ala. All of humanity must collectively profess that they are the servants and slaves of Allah Ta'ala, and all of humanity must collectively acknowledge their humility, that they're unable to be that unless only and only Allah Ta'ala helps them. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Then the next word, ihdina. And so what's the way Allah Ta'ala is going to help us? So the first thing, let me actually say, how will we seek Allah Ta'ala's help? By dua. By making dua. We will beg you for that help. We will plead with you for that help. We will ask you for that help. And what's the first dua that Allah Ta'ala is training? So Allah Ta'ala is training us. Allah Ta'ala is teaching all this in Fatiha. I'm not teaching you this. Allah Ta'ala is teaching this in Fatiha. That you will be my abd. You will be an abd only of me. You will need my help to do so. And you will seek my help through making dua to me. And you will make which dua? Of hidayah. Ihdina. That Allah Ta'ala, I need hidayah. So what is the greatest help I need from Allah Ta'ala? Is it money? Is it health? Is it job? Is it career? Is it house? What is Fatiha teaching? What's the opening? What is the opening? What's the beginning? What's the asl? So Fatiha, it's many things. When we're praying in English, it's opening. It also means the foundation, the first. What's of primordial, fundamental, foundational, essential, critical importance? That's Fatiha. So it means hidayah. My whole life is about hidayah. I'm a seeker of hidayah. I'm not a seeker of dunya. So another way to check, how can I check if I'm strong in deen? Well, what is your heart? What's your greatest goal? If your greatest goal in life is hidayah, then you have hope. But if no, all I'm worried about is, am I going to get this? Am I going to get that? Am I going to get this? Am I going to get that? And it's all worldly, material possessions and status and fame and money and things. So that means, this is a problem. The human being is an abd of Allah Ta'ala, and the human being is a seeker of hidayah. So ihdina, and again, we're all in this together. All of humanity needs hidayah. As-sirat al-mustaqim. Now this is very interesting, that this is a path. It's not just an idea, just hidayah to iman, or just hidayah to kalima la ilaha illallah. No, there's a whole life. Guide me to that entire lived path of life, where every step I take, every moment of the journey is taken towards you, and earns your pleasure. As-sirat al-mustaqim. It is the path that is straight, that is correct, that is steadfast, on which I can persevere. It is a path that itself is everlasting. It is a path that has been everlasting since the creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. All the way till the end of time, there will be people of iman. Okay, barring one exception that will come at one point in the future. But this is a path. A path. So after making this pledge and covenant and contract with Allah Ta'ala of iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, then I'm begging for hidayah to the path. So what is the sirat? It is the way of the abd, the way of the person who seeks hidayah. It is as-siratul mustaqim. And so it's very important that we realize this, and we always make this dua. We're never done. That's why we always recite Surah Fatiha and Salah all the way till we die. We always need hidayah, more hidayah, to stay on the hidayah we've received, to preserve the hidayah that we learned, to value the hidayah that has been given. Then what's the first and foremost teaching of this path? That Allah Ta'ala says, Siratul Kitabi was Sunnah? No. Did Allah Ta'ala say Siratul Aql wal Ilm? No. Is it Allah Ta'ala choosing to define and describe that path as a book of texts, the textual content of the Quran and the textual content of Hadith? No. Did Allah Ta'ala choose to define that path as a path of ideas, the path of the concept of Iman, the concept of Islam, the concept of Taqwa? No. Allah Ta'ala chose to define the path as a path of people. Sirat alladhina, sirata alladhina. It's a path of alladhina, people. Not all people, not any people. Alladhina means those people. The people, a specific group of people. So it means ihdina sirat alladhina. Ihdina sirat alladhina. Guide me to the path of people. Those people, those particular people, an'amta alayhim, that you, Allah Ta'ala, you have sent your special fadl, karam, inamat, grace, bounty, generosity on them. Alayhim, on them. Why? Because that's hidayah. They have been blessed with hidayah. They have been blessed with ibadah. They have been blessed with obedience to be your abd. Okay, so that's one type of people. And who are they first and foremost? They're the prophets alayhim as-salam ajma'in. So here Allah does bring all of humanity together. That these are the anbiya alayhim as-salam ajma'in. Allah does mention a different verse of Quran that the first group of these people are nabiyyin, then siddiqeen, the true followers of the prophets. So let us know that it's not just the prophets. We have to be their true followers. Shuhada, those who gave their very lives for the sake of defending deen, and salihin, and the virtuous, upright, pious followers of deen. So the next concept here is غير المغضوب. Allah Ta'ala, and don't ever let us follow the path of those people upon whom you are angry. So this is a very, now Allah Ta'ala didn't say this earlier. So if you look at the top is rahmah, the beginning is rahmah, but the end we get a sign. Now here Allah Ta'ala didn't mention the ghadab as his sifa, as his attribute. He mentioned maghdubiyya, the object of being angry, as the attribute of humans, right? So when it comes to rahmah, Allah Ta'ala mentions that as his attribute, although obviously he will send that mercy on humans, and humans will be the object of that mercy. But when it comes to his anger, at least in Surah Fatiha, he's not mentioning it as his attribute, rather he's mentioning it as a characteristic of bad people who have earned his anger. Alright? So they're maghdub. But it does teach us at the end of Surah Fatiha, Surah Al-Fatiha, that there's another type of person. So there are those people, alladhina an'amta alayhim, and there are also those other people who Allah Ta'ala is angry with. And then there's another type of person, waladhalin, and Allah Ta'ala, don't ever make us amongst those people, don't ever put us on the path of those people whom are astray. So what does it mean? Allah Ta'ala may not be angry with them as much, but they're still astray. So this may be people who may be good in the world, they've never hurt anybody else, they've never harmed anyone else. So because no member of creation is angry with them, maybe Allah Ta'ala is not angry with them in this sense. However, they're still astray, they're still misguided, they're still lost, they don't have iman, and they're not the path that we want to be on. So this is one way to do this, if you view it as the sirat, the path of those whom Allah Ta'ala has blessed, and not the path of those whom have earned the anger of Allah Ta'ala or who are astray. A second way to do this is the path is of those whom Allah Ta'ala is blessed, the sirat is of alladhina alayhim. Who are the people who Allah Ta'ala is blessed? They're the ones who Allah is not angry with them, and they're the ones who are not astray. There'll be a slight difference. The meaning would be the same, it's just a slight different shade or perspective or angle or nuance of meaning. Alright? Here, this is all we can manage today for for Surah Fatiha. We have a longer talk on Surah Al-Fatiha on the website. Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, interestingly, let's look at the way Allah Ta'ala chose to order and sequence Quran Al-Kareem. Surah Al-Fatiha is a short surah, interesting start, deep concepts. One could talk about it for hours and hours. And mashallah, the ulama of tafsir have written literally hundreds or thousands of pages just on Surah Al-Fatiha. But the very next surah is a sharp contrast. The very next surah is the longest surah in Quran Al-Kareem, Surah Al-Baqarah. The very next surah is from a much later revelation known as the Madani revelations, which are after the Hijrah, after the migration of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Just to get you an idea of how long the surah it is, as all of you will know and you will see, it's even more than one juz, right? So it's about 1/12 of the Quran Al-Kareem. It's 1/12 of, it's more than 2 juz even, put it that way, right? So it's the longest surah. And there's so much material in this surah, and so this is a perfect case where we, just due to constraints of time, we will only be able to discuss certain selected verses. And as I proceed, I'm going to have to start talking a bit faster. And remember, this is all something you can all listen to later. It's not necessary to listen to the entire content in one day in Ramadan. That is the purpose of uploading it to the public YouTube channel, so that people can, all the public can review this at their own pace. If you feel I speak fast, you would know that YouTube has this playback setting. You can listen with a 0.75 speed, etc., etc. All right? Okay. Bismillah. So now we're going to do Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, another thing you will see is the names, right? So, let me come to that in a moment. The first thing is that Surah Al-Baqarah, despite the fact that it is very long, it doesn't mean that every single thing, every topic in the Quran Al-Kareem is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. At the same time, Surah Al-Baqarah has almost all of the core major essential topics of Quran Al-Kareem. And this is why the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala ajmain, and there are many famous sayings attributed to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu of this kind. They would spend a lot of time pondering, reflecting, understanding Surah Baqarah, trying to learn the lessons from it. And I found that many people today find Surah Baqarah heavy. They find Surah Al-Baqarah, they find Al-Baqarah intense. Maybe because it's long, maybe because the topics are a bit intense. And it shows, right? That's the difference in the strength of our iman and taqwa compared to the Sahaba. That Surah Baqarah was a core for them, and for us it's difficult, right? I would say the way we then approach Surah Baqarah is, rather than trying to master the entire verse-by-verse content, let's try to extract the broader lessons. What are the main themes and lessons? And so I'm going to try to select verses that do that, can bring us to that. Just to give you a brief overview, first of all, is that, and I think, again, those of you all, mashallah, many of you will be familiar with the Quran Al-Kareem. There's a lot of mention of the Bani Israel in Surah Baqarah. And I'm actually not going to be doing that too much in detail. I just want to, at the outset, mention that remember that when the Quran Al-Kareem was revealed to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this was the last and final revelation to the last and final prophet to establish the last and final deen. And prior to this, there were revelations, true revelations sent to true prophets. First and foremost, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the Prophet Jesus, the Bible and Gospel, and Nabi Musa alayhi salam, the Prophet Moses, the Torah. But according to the Islamic understanding, and what Allah Ta'ala revealed to us in Quran Al-Kareem, is that over time there were some changes that were made. Not entirely, not 100%, but there were some changes that were made in those originally revealed scriptures, and there were some concepts that later generations changed. However, the Prophet Isa alayhi salam and the Prophet Musa alayhi salam themselves throughout the entire lifetime are absolutely true, pure prophets of Allah Ta'ala, delivering the true revelation and scripture and message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now here in particular, in Surah Al-Baqarah, it's going to mention a lot of things about Nabi Musa alayhi salam. The Prophet Musa alayhi salam, his own life, his interaction with Fir'aun, the Pharaoh, his interaction with his own community, his own followers, what happens to Bani Israel, etc., etc. Alright? Now, the purpose of this, and this is a good way for us to understand the purpose of the entire Quran al-Karim, is for us to draw lessons. It does not mean that every Jew alive today has the attributes that are mentioned in Surah Baqarah about the Bani Israel. No, right? Rather, actually means something much more intense, that there may be some Muslims alive today who are in danger of having these bad attributes, and therefore Allah Ta'ala in the Quran al-Karim is openly, clearly, in a very detailed, thorough manner, explained to us ways that this historical community went astray, so that we as Muslims, or even any human, would not let those character flaws come into us. Alright? And this is the purpose of all of the historical narratives in the Quran al-Karim, whether they're about earlier prophets ﷺ, or they're about other historical communities. Right? But then one major thing, and I will be selecting those verses, is Surah Al-Baqarah will be talking about Islam's view, if you will, about other religions and the followers of other religions, specifically about the Ahl Kitab, about Jews and Christians. Alright. So let's start over here. Alif Lam Mim. Now, I'm not going to talk about this in detail, but just so you know, of the 114 surahs in Quran al-Karim, 29 of those surahs begin with these individual letters, which are known as the mutashabbihat. And the true meaning, according to my understanding, according to the understanding of ulama that I think is more correct, is that nobody really knows what the meaning of these letters are. So there is no real meaning of Alif Lam Mim. If you take that understanding, there's still a lesson here. And the lesson is that even though Allah Ta'ala is sending Quran and revealing Quran in a language, Quran and Arabiya, that the Quranic original community understood and me and you can learn and understand, Allah Ta'ala's own knowledge, because the Quran is being revealed from the knowledge of Allah, Allah Ta'ala's own ilm and knowledge transcends our understanding. And even such a simple kalam of Allah Ta'ala, Alif Lam Mim, is very simple if you just look at it visually, right? Very little ink is required to write those three letters. It may contain a vast, infinite meaning in the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, which He has chosen not to share with humanity. So we realize as well that the Quran al-Karim is the knowledge that we humans need for our hidayah, but it is just a drop and a drop and a drop and a drop of the endless, limitless, infinite ocean of the ilm, of Al-Alim, Allahul Alim, of the infinite knowledge of the all-knowing, infinitely knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that, I think, is the message. And that is also why you would notice as well in the way it's recited, they're drawn Alif Lam Mim. It's drawn out to show a little bit in our qiraat the vastness and the immense, limitless, infinite nature of Allah Ta'ala's knowledge, as He knows what this verse means, and we don't know what this verse means. Alright? And so that is all I'm going to say about Alif Lam Mim. Alright, verses 1 to 5 in Surah Al-Baqarah are about the believers, describing things about the believers, mentioning things about the believers. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, right? This is the book. This Quran al-Karim is that scriptural compiled revelation in the form of a book. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, that there's absolutely no doubt in it whatsoever. Hudan, a complete and absolute total guidance. لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, for the people of piety, for the people who obey, for the people who know Allah Ta'ala, fear Allah Ta'ala, for the people who revere Allah Ta'ala in their hearts. Alright? So the first thing we're learning is that the entire kalam of Allah Ta'ala, the khitab of Allah Ta'ala has been made into a book, Kitabullah. Alright? And if the more taqwa you have, the less doubt you will have or uncertainty you will have about any verse in Quran. So then you can reverse that. If I'm not sure, if I don't know, yes, one solution is to learn more. But what I want to make, so the first very important point I want to make, right, in this sort of gems of Quran tradition, highlighting the concept, is that sometimes when there's something about the Quran that we don't fully understand, or something about the Seerah or Hadith or about Islam that we don't fully understand, the solution to that isn't always only more knowledge. It's not always only more intelligence or more aql. Sometimes the solution to that is more taqwa. That this is something I'll only be able to understand, not if I study it more or I learn more about it. Many times that is the case. But there's a certain kind of understanding. Which understanding? That removes all raib, that removes all uncertainties, makes the focus sharper, removes any blurriness in our vision. And that is acquired through taqwa. So now Allah Ta'ala is setting the miyar, the standard. Okay, you're beginning Quran al-Kareem, you're beginning recitation, you're beginning study of Quran. Know that yes, you will recite, you will translate, you will acquire knowledge, you will learn commentary, you will understand using your own intelligence. But the real, final, ultimate, penultimate way to understand Quran will be when you have taqwa in your heart. How much taqwa? That you have so much taqwa that taqwa becomes your sifat, your attribute. You are from the muttaqeen, not touch and go taqwa, not partial taqwa, not on and off taqwa. The taqwa of the muttaqeen. But ya Allah, I'm mu'mineen. Yeah, you are mu'mineen. If you're non-muttaqeen mu'mineen, you won't be able to understand the Quran fully. If you're non-muttaqeen muslimeen, you won't be able to understand the Quran fully. Even if you may be the greatest alim, the greatest scholar of Arabic, the greatest PhD holder, there's going to be a final, ultimate level of understanding that will only be when you have so much taqwa that you become from the muttaqeen. Second lesson is the whole purpose of Quran is to become from the muttaqeen. And that obviously has a special meaning for us in Ramadan, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that the whole purpose of fasting is to become a person of taqwa. The whole purpose of fasting is to become a person of taqwa, because the whole person of taqwa is to understand and embody and live and practice Quran al-Kareem and be the abd of Allah Ta'ala and all the things that we talked about in Fateha. Alright. So a little bit of explanation. Allah Ta'ala is going to mention who these people are. So al-ladhina, just like we had again. How do we know what Sirat al-Mustaqim is? Allah Ta'ala will define it by people. Al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. How do we know what muttaqeen, who are the muttaqeen? Allah Ta'ala will explain to us people. So Fatiha is about people, the start of Surah Baqarah is about people. So it's very strange when certain reformist modernists say that, deen has nothing to do with people, it has only to do with texts. So when I open the first page of the text, Fatiha, Allah is talking about people. I go to the next surah at the start of Baqarah, Allah is talking about people. How can you tell me that deen of Islam is not about people, only about texts, when the text of the deen itself, Allah Ta'ala is telling me in Quran that it is also, not only, but also about people. Which people? The people who truly understand and follow those texts, but it is about people. Alright? So who are these muttaqeen? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. So they have iman in what? In the unseen. They have iman in the unseen. Now obviously that first and foremost includes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But the haqiqat of Allah Ta'ala is unseen. So that's first and foremost Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. But it also means other unseen realities, like life after death, like the day of judgment, like Jannah, paradise, like Jahannam, hell, like angels, right? Like the taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they have yu'minuna, they have perpetual, absolute, constant iman, faith and belief in all of these unseen realities. All of these unseen realities. Second thing about them. So first is the iman in their heart. Second, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ, and they have firmly, regularly established and performed the salah, the prayer in their life. So this is the first step. Taqwa, iman, salah. Taqwa, iman, salah. Muttaqeen, yu'minun, yuqimuna salah. Taqwa, iman, salah. This is what it's all about. This is where the hidayah starts. This is where we start right after Fatiha. This is the second opening. Taqwa, iman, salah. Alright, all of it coming in the kitab, Quran, and coming under hudan, hidayah. Quran, hidayah, taqwa, iman, salah. Alright? وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and they spend out of which, from that from which we, Allah Ta'ala is saying that we have bestowed upon them. Alright? So let me explain this we once, then we don't have to do this again. When Allah Ta'ala uses this term we, it doesn't mean Allah Ta'ala is one. He's not plural, na'udhu billah. This is what sometimes in English is known as the royal we or the majestic we. So the way you translate this properly, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, and they spend from that which Allah Ta'ala is saying, Razaqna, I, Allah Ta'ala, in all of my might and majesty have provided them. So whenever you see na, yes, people in English will translate as we, because when you're doing a written translation, you can't use so many words. People in Urdu will translate it as hum, but the reality is that it's not we, it's I, Allah Ta'ala, in my dhat, my essence, my attributes, my wisdom, my knowledge, my power, in all of my attributes, I have provided them with my rizq. Okay? But what is the lesson here? So the first was iman, the second is they worship, and the third is they care about humanity. That's what this means. So that's not the translation, but that's the lesson. So what's the three main attributes of the people of taqwa? They have deep iman, they love Allah Ta'ala, they have a deep heartfelt relationship with Allah Ta'ala. Second, they worship, and third, they care about humanity. So this is a false understanding of secular liberal humanism, that all that matters is that you care about humanity. That's one out of three things. One out of three things. Right? You also have to worship Allah Ta'ala, and you also have to believe in Allah Ta'ala. You need all three things. This is the very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, very beginning of Quranic Kareem. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And who are the people? Another description of the people of taqwa. They believe in each and every single thing that has been revealed and sent down to you, singular, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So their iman in Quran and iman in Nubuwah is mentioned here. Ma unzila min qablik, and they believe in the entire history of scriptural revelation and previous prophets and messengers. They believe in all of that also. And third, wa bil akhirati, and as far as the akhirah goes, not only do they yu'minun, not only do they have iman, hum yuqinun, they have absolute yaqeen. So what does that mean? They have iman in that, but having iman and having yaqeen, what's the difference? Right? So obviously, we must have yaqeen in Quran, in bima unzila ilayk, and we must have yaqeen in wa unzila min qablik. So that's not a contrast. The first iman with the yu'minuna means they believe in certainty in the Quran that has been sent upon you and all that has been sent upon those before you. And as far as the akhirah goes, they believe it in certainty, and they also live their life practically based on the reality and based on their belief that there's an akhirah. So here's why Allah Ta'ala used this new word here, yuqinun, to show an amal, a lived life. So focus on the akhirah. That is also an aspect of taqwa. Ulaika ala hudan min rabbihim. Okay? La rayba fi hudan. These people of taqwa, as described by Allah Ta'ala in Quran, they are firmly upon a complete and total guidance that has been revealed and sent to them from their Rabb. Wa ulaika humul muflihun, and they are also going to be the ones who shall prosper and succeed and be triumphant and have falah in that akhirah. Alright. So the first verse 1 to 5 were about the believers. There are three things that are going to come in Surah Baqarah at the start. The believers, those who reject belief, and those who pretend to believe. So sometimes known as mu'minun, kafirun, munafiqun. So now 5 verses on the believers. We're done, verses 1 to 5. 2 verses on those who reject belief. And this is the term I prefer to use for alladhina kafaru or kuffar or kafirun. These are the three ways this comes. It's too simple just to say unbelievers and non-believers. They reject and deny belief. So it's understood what it really means is they know belief to some extent. They acknowledge iman. They don't accept iman, but they see iman as a reality, right? So for example, those who rejected belief in the time of the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, they saw him. They knew he was a prophet, but they rejected it. Those who were at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they saw him, they heard him, they knew he was as-sadiqul amin, but they rejected it. They hear Quranic Kareem, they know just by listening to it that this cannot be the kalam of bashar, this cannot be the speech of a human being, it must be the kalam of a divine being, but they reject it. And this is what the word kufr means, to conceal or reject or deny. And it actually means all of that, to deny and reject through concealing something. So you can only conceal something after you acknowledge its existence, right? That's what it means. They don't affirm Iman, but they acknowledge and know the existence of Iman. They choose to deny and reject it by concealing that Iman. This is the whole translation of Alladhina kafaru. So who are they? Inna alladhina kafaru. So now Allah Ta'ala doesn't describe their attributes. Like earlier in verses 1 to 5, Allah Ta'ala described who are the mu'mineen, who are the muttaqeen, right? Here, and to be fair actually, the first 1 to 5 is not just believers, the pious believers, the reverent believers, the muttaqeen. Verses 6 to 7, those who deny and reject belief. Allah Ta'ala doesn't describe who they are initially. Allah Ta'ala first describes how do you deal with them, or how should you not deal with them, or what is not worthwhile in how you deal with them. سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنذَرْتُهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It is irrelevant. It is irrelevant whether you warn them, you singular, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether you warn them, أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ, or if you don't warn them. It's the same. سَوَاءٌ. It's going to be the same result, same outcome. Which is what? What's the outcome? لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. They will not believe. Why? Because they've chosen to reject belief. They have made that choice already to reject belief. They are firm and steadfast in that choice. They're not open-minded. Therefore, it's irrelevant. It will be the same whether you warn them or you don't. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Can you imagine some human beings like that? That the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rahmatul alameen, if he was to go to them in the nur and the beauty of his virtue and character and ability, and he was to, in his most beautiful manner, try to lovingly, gently invite them to believe in Allah Ta'ala, that would have no effect on them whatsoever, would make no difference whatsoever. It would be sawa'un, as if he never even spoke to them. What type of human beings are like that? So it's not talking about an ordinary person today who read CNN and doesn't believe in Islam. It's talking about those people who have denied and rejected belief in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mission and message of Deen of Islam, to such an extent that were he to go and warn them, it would make no difference upon them whatsoever. And because of that level of rejection, that level of denial, that Allah says, okay, if you choose to reject, then we keep you in that. In other words, now, even if the Prophet ﷺ goes to you and it makes no difference, then there's only one thing left that could have made a difference. What? Allah Ta'ala could have sent Hidayah in their hearts. And He says, no, because I gave you free will. I gave you free choice. I gave you the ability to freely believe and freely disbelieve. You've chosen to freely disbelieve so much that even if my beloved Sallallahu comes to you, it will make no difference. So now I choose then never to send my mercy on you. Khatamallahu ala qulubihim. So look at the order and sequence. It's not that Allah Ta'ala sets a seal on their heart and that's why they can't believe. No, first they choose not to believe. They reject it so entirely. Then comes Khatamallahu ala qulubihim. Then yes, and Allah Ta'ala has set a seal upon their spiritual hearts, which is where Hidayah and Iman resides. Wa ala sam'ihim, and on their ability to comprehend. Right? Literally it's their hearing, but their ability to comprehend. Wa ala absarihim, and their ability to perceive realities. Literally it means on their sight. Wa ala absarihim ghishawa, and on their ability to perceive realities there's veils, there's obscurities, there's covering. They will not be able to perceive clearly. وَلَهُمْ أَذَابٌ أَذِيمٌ. And to them, what will be their lot? What will happen to them will be a tremendous punishment. Azim. This is Allahul Azim in Al-Quranul Azim, telling such people that they will have Azabun Azim. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Allahumma ajirna min an-nar. So this is the Maghdubi alayhim. Remember that we did in Surah Fatiha? This is the ones we don't want to be. So now how could we? People say, no, say, alhamdulillah, I can never be this because I have Iman. No. It makes no difference. If I recite anybody recites, if you hear something from Quran, it doesn't make a difference to you. You're the same afterwards. It made no difference whether you learnt that teaching of Quran or not. Then we're resembling. We're not falling in this category, but we're resembling these people. Or you heard a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and it made no difference. It didn't change you. You're the same. Sawa'un. You're the same either way. That's a problem. That's a problem. It's a problem. So we don't want to be the same. So keyword for sawa'un. We don't want it to be the same for us. Whether we learn, we don't learn. We know Quran, we don't know Quran. We know hadith, we don't know hadith. Right? No. We want to be different. We want every hidayah, every guidance, every knowledge, every life experience to change us for the better and to make us closer to Allah Ta'ala. Alright? So this is a lesson from here. And I'm doing the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah because it's so important. So from verses 8 to 16, Allah Ta'ala is going to talk about another group who, again, normally are simply translated as hypocrites, but I'm going to translate them as those who pretend to believe. Those who pretend to believe. Alright? And you'll maybe see why when I finish this passage. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And from humanity, from the people, there are some who profess to say, we believe in Allah and we believe in the last day. But Allah Ta'ala is saying in Quran, so this is what they say, مَنْ يَقُولُ and قَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى فِي الْقُرْآنِ الْكَرِيمِ وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And Allah Ta'ala says in Quran, and they are not believers. They are not believers. What does it mean? And they don't really believe in what they profess or pretend to believe. Allahu Akbar. Now, me and you can't say that. But Allah Ta'ala can say that because He knows what's in the hearts. He knows the reality. And He's saying it in Quran. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ. So what does it mean? They think they would pretend and aspire to deceive Allah Ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And they also aspire to pretend and deceive those who believe. But وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. But they do not deceive no one other than their own selves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they don't even realize that. And all the while they themselves are unaware. Now, maybe they're unaware that they're not successful at deceiving Allah Ta'ala. Maybe they're unaware that they're not successful at deceiving the believers. Or maybe they're unaware that they're deceiving themselves. And it actually is all three. They're unaware of all these three things. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ. So this is not خَدَمَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبِهِمْ. Allah Ta'ala doesn't set a seal on their heart, but their heart is mentioned. In their spiritual hearts is a rot, an illness, a disease, if you will, a pandemic. Alright? فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. And then Allah Ta'ala increases them in that marad. So Allah Ta'ala didn't place that illness there in them. They themselves chose to adopt the illness of hypocrisy, of pretending to believe and being deceivers. So Allah Ta'ala then increases them on the path. He guides them further on the path that they have chosen. فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. And Allah Ta'ala increases them in their disease and rot and illness. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. So before was عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And to these people, who pretend to believe, is a painful punishment. Alim is painful, Azim is tremendous. بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. Why? For is due for sabab, due to their having continually lived a life of lies and deceit. Due to their continually lying and deceiving and pretending to believe, they will have a painful punishment. Alright? What's the lesson for us? What's the lesson for us? That we can't deceive Allah Ta'ala and don't try to deceive people. That, I prayed Tahajjud once, so now I'll act as if I'm a super pious person and Allah Ta'ala will treat me like a waliullah. No, you can't deceive Allah Ta'ala. I gave a talk once, I gave a talk on YouTube and people praised me, now I will act like I'm the biggest shaykh in the world. You can't deceive people. And if you do these things, if you have this illness, if you choose to be a person of deception, فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. Allah Ta'ala will increase this rot of deception. Alright? So better that we learn from these lessons and stay. So the purpose of this revelation is not for me and you to find out who is a hypocrite and point fingers at them. Is to learn how to point fingers at our own selves. Alright? Allah Ta'ala knows best. Me and you don't know. The only thing me and you know about is ourselves. Alright. 11 to 16, this is actually continuing, it's all together, but it couldn't fit on one slide. So the section is 8 to 16. This entire section is 8 to 16. And then now we're going to have to, again, pick up more speed, inshallah. Now again, remember about those who concealed and denied belief. Allah Ta'ala said, Sawa'un, it doesn't make a difference if the Prophet ﷺ warns them or not. Here, again about these people, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, and if it were to be said to them, لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, that do not spread corruption on earth, in the earth, upon the earth, if you will, right? قَالُوا, they would reply, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ, we are the ones who are doing righteousness. We are the ones who are rectifying matters on earth. We are the opposite of spreading fasad. We are removing fasad. Allah innahum humul mufsidun. Allah Ta'ala replies, Allah, learn and know well. Innahum, indeed they, humul mufsidun, they truly are the ones who are the spreaders of corruption on earth. وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ, but they're so self-deluded, they're not even aware, they don't even realize themselves. The same thing that came above, of not having shu'ur. So what is this lesson for us? We must always have shu'ur. Beg Allah Ta'ala for shu'ur. Ya Allah, let me always have shu'ur. Let me always be self-aware. Let me be self-critical. Let me realize. Protect me from every self-delusion, self-deception. Protect me from any other type of delusion, any external type of delusion or deception. Okay, second possible way they could have been addressed. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, now there's also a possibility that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of his soft and gentle, loving nature, maybe in his heart he had this in mind, that I'll just go to these people and tell them لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, and they'll become fine. So Allah Ta'ala sent revelations and no, these people are beyond your reach. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, and secondly, were it to be said to them, آمِنُوا, simply believe. But how? Truly, not the way you're pretending to. Aminu kama amana nasu, that believe the way the people have believed. Now here, annas, by annas the people means Sahaba Kiram, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. Real people, the true people, the people of the folk of belief, believe in the same manner that true people really believe. Believe in the way of believing. Believe in the way that real people believe. Believe in the way that real people really believe. Qalu, they would have a response for this. Anu'minu kama amana sufahau, that you want us to believe in the same way that the fools believe. Now the beloved, they're calling the first group, muttaqeen mu'minin, fools. So Allah Ta'ala himself will reply, Allah innahum humus sufahau, walakin la ya'lamun. No, indeed, it is they themselves who are the fools. However, they don't know. They know not. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and when these, those who pretend to believe, meet the true believers, قَالُوا, the pretenders, they say, آمَنَّا, we believe. وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ, but when they retreat and they're alone with their satans, means their friends and companions who are under the influence of shaitan, qalu, then what do these pretenders say? Inna ma'akum, they tell them that we are with you. And part of that was those who denied belief, they would go back to them. So they were going back and forth, no, we're with you. Innama nahnu mustahzi'un, no, we were just, mock belief, or we were mocking the believers by pretending to be with them. So again, Allah Ta'ala will respond, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. Now, Allah Ta'ala mocks them. And وَيُمُنْدُهُمْ فِي تُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ, and Allah Ta'ala will leave them to wander. He will leave them without His mercy, without His guidance. فِي تُغْيَانِهِمْ, in their rebellion. يَعْمَهُونَ, and they will wander and tarry and roam around confused in this state of rebellion. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الضَّلَالَةَ بِالْهُدَىٰ, they're the ones literally who have purchased error in place of guidance, at the price of guidance. فَمَا رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُهُمْ, and this trade of theirs, this transaction of theirs will never bring them profit. وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ, and never ever will they be rightly guided. Okay, now the lessons for us, because we're not going to continue this passage here. The lessons for us are what? Lessons for us are we should never have any false pretenses. We shouldn't have religious friends and go to non-religious friends, and if our non-religious friends mock us and say, why did you spend time with them? Oh, no, we weren't. You can have non-religious friends as long as your religion is protected. You can have religious friends. That's a wonderful thing. But when you go to your when you spend time with your non-religious friends, you should not let yourself or your deen or your friends of deen be a subject of mockery, a subject of derision. You must stand up, right? You don't have to be mean, you don't have to fight, you don't have to argue. You can simply say, no, that's not the case. Those are my friends on the basis of deen, and you are my friends because of childhood, because of school, but I won't stand for this, that you make fun of my religion, or you make fun of the people of religion, but beyond that I'm happy to be friends with you in a friendly manner. You have to stand up for that, right? Otherwise, we won't fall into the category of these people, but we'll be somewhat resembling them, and we don't want to resemble anything, even remotely, even have a trace resemblance to any even one attribute that these people have. Right? Okay. Now we're going to move forward. Maybe it's time actually. I'm going to take a small break over here. I think we should pause. Although today may not be so critical, but tomorrow when we're fasting, it may be hard to speak non-stop for so long. So I'm going to take a very, very small... actually, you know what? Let's just continue. I'm not going to take a break today, but inshallah, maybe from... Inshallah, we will just manage it without taking any break, right? Okay, so now this was the first part of Surah Baqarah. Now I have to go at lightning speed, inshallah, and I'm going to do this very fast for you, only verbally. Now I'm going to be plucking out certain verses, and unfortunately I could not prepare these slides for you today, but we'll put them up later somewhere maybe on the website, and I'm going to verbally tell you the verses that we have picked out for today, the remaining verses of the first juz. Okay, the next verse I wanted to do was verse number 26. Verse number 26, and now I'm going to be doing the summarized way of explaining. Alright? In verse number 26, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the famous verse where Allah ta'ala mentions that Allah ta'ala uses the word haya, means Allah ta'ala does not deem it in any way as belittling His majesty to coin the example even of a mosquito. Alright? Because Allah ta'ala is the creator of everything. He's the creator of the vast black holes, and He's the creator of the small mosquitoes, and the black hole may be greater than the mosquito in of itself, but in the sense that they're both creations of Allah ta'ala and they both have signs of His creation, then they're equally great. So if there's a sign in the mosquito about something, about the majesty of Allah ta'ala's creation, then the mosquito is equally great as the black hole that has signs about Allah ta'ala's creation. So this is the verse number 26. Alright? But the part I wanted to do for you was towards the end of that verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about these examples, يُذِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا, that Allah ta'ala lets go astray, right? Literally means Allah ta'ala misleads many people by those examples and parables, and He guides many people by those examples and parables. But then Allah ta'ala says, وَمَا يُذِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, and Allah ta'ala does not misguide or let go astray anyone through any parable or example, إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, except those who are fasiq. So this is the core concept that people ask often a question of, what does it mean that Allah ta'ala misguides? Allah ta'ala never initially misguides a human being. Allah ta'ala always originally guides a human being. Second, Allah ta'ala always wants to continue guide a human being. Third, only Allah Ta'ala knows best how many times and how many ways He has guided every human being. Fourth, Allah Ta'ala's attribute is Al-Hadi. He is the being who is always perpetually guiding. Fifth, if despite all of the above, a person chooses actively to conceal and deny and reject guidance, whether it's guidance on Iman or guidance about Amal or guidance on a particular thing, and chooses to keep using their free will and choice to follow the path of misguidance, so then for a person who keeps doing that to a level that they reach the other extreme, which is now the symmetrical opposite of muttaqeen, and that is called the Fasiqun, when they enter that level of voluntarily, defiantly disobeying Allah Ta'ala, rejecting His guidance, refusing to acknowledge, when they reach that level that they're fasiqeen, then Allah Ta'ala does something that He lets them go. That's what it means, yudhil. And it may mean, like we said, like Allah Ta'ala said earlier, that He increases them in their illness. He may increase them in their misguidance. So after they've selected so much misguidance for themselves, only after that they become fasiqeen, Allah Ta'ala may increase that misguidance. Why? Because again, when they have chosen to become fasiqeen, now they're unreachable. The only thing that could reach them would be the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. But now Allah Ta'ala is punishing them for spurning Him, rejecting Him, choosing against His guidance, that now He is going to put them outside the range of His guidance. And that's really the proper way to define the term yudhillu, that Allah Ta'ala lets a person go astray, such that He lets them go so far astray that they go outside the range of His guidance. Now what does this mean? That Allah Ta'ala's guidance is limitless. Only He has the power to cast someone outside the range of His hidayah, and that's what this attribute means, yudhillu. Okay, next verse I want to do is verse 30. Verse 30 is the famous verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran al-Kareem, mentioned the story of the creation of humanity and the creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. So, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, that Allah Ta'ala gathered the angels and then He told them, with qala rabbuka lil malaikati, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, when your Rabb told all the angels that indeed I'm going to place on earth my Khalifa. Okay? So the fancy English word for this is vicegerent. Is my Khalifa someone who will represent what? Represent the wisdom and the beauty of Allah Ta'ala's creation. How? That Allah Ta'ala has created a being who will have the freedom to believe or disbelieve in Him. Allah Ta'ala will create a steward of the Quran al-Kareem, or the teachings of Allah Ta'ala, all the revealed deen, all of the Anbiya. Allah Ta'ala will make a creation called humanity that will be addressed through revelation. Will create a creation called humanity from whom He will raise forth His Anbiya, prophets and messengers. He will create a creation called humanity and give them the ability to follow that scriptural revelation wahi, and to follow those prophets and messengers alayhim assalam ajmain. And in their ability to do that, in their ability to be people of virtue and piety, in that potential that they have to become muttaqeen, they will be the Khalifa of Allah Ta'ala on earth. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Alright? Okay. The second way this has been understood is it's not necessarily that all of humanity is the Khalifa of Allah Ta'ala on earth. It's specifically Nabi Adam alayhi salam who is going to be the Khalifa of Allah Ta'ala on earth. How? Because he's a Nabi. He's the first Nabi, right? In terms of Allah Ta'ala's physical creation. Many ulama of the opinion that Allah Ta'ala created the ruh of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before He created anything else. And it was the very first creation of Allah Ta'ala, and there's different views on this because different hadith suggest different things. Was it the Lawh, the eternal tablet? Was it the Qalam? Or was it the Nur of the Ruh of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Alright? But in terms of the space-time creation, right? The space-time creation, which is after Allah Ta'ala creates the physical universe, then there is a certain type of creation that Allah Ta'ala does, which I'm calling space-time creation. So Jannah is not a space-time creation. Jannah transcends the physical material universe that we call space, and Jannah transcends time as me and you know it. Okay? But in terms of the creation of humanity, which is not just the ruh, their spiritual creation, but their space-time creation, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam is the first Nabi, the first prophet. So the other position is that this verse is specifically talking about Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, right? And he is the Khalifa of Allah Ta'ala on earth, so therefore it's not by virtue of being a human, but it's by virtue of being a Nabi. And that means that Allah Ta'ala is essentially creating humanity from a Nabi. So the whole purpose of humanity is either that they will be a Nabi like Adam alayhi salam, or they will respond to and follow the Anbiya like the Bani Adam. Alright? Okay. Now, the other important thing about this verse is that, contrary to, for example, Christian belief, that human being, the doctrine of the fallen man and original sin, this is clear that the very first time Allah Ta'ala addressed the angels, He had already said that He was placing Adam alayhi salam on earth. So it's not that the plan was, that Allah Ta'ala's will and wish was, to keep Adam alayhi salam in Jannah forever, but Adam alayhi salam made a mistake, and as a consequence, Adam alayhi salam was placed on earth. No, the plan always was, Allah Ta'ala's plan always was, to place Adam alayhi salam on earth, and that is the first way it is mentioned in Quran, and that is the first conversation Allah Ta'ala had with the angels. Alright? Okay. Now, the rest of this passage, I would just summarize this, but as you would know, the rest of the story of the creation of Adam alayhi salam is that the angels asked Allah Ta'ala this question, that Ya Allah, are you going to place on earth, right, a being, and there's a lot of interesting tafsir that has been written on this. And again, if I continue at this pace, we will never be able to get one juz done in one day. And I've done this level of detail in the other Dora Tafsir series, which is there on the IslamicSpirituality.org website. I've done all these verses in some level of detail. Alhamdulillah, with the karam and fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to summarize the contents of this passage, so just so you have the passage, this is verses number 30 all the way up to verse number 39, which is the story of the creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. So here, the angels asked Allah Ta'ala that you're going to create him as a Khalifa, but they somehow realized, they saw something, right? They saw something in Adam alayhi salam, which is very interesting. And it's always interested me, and here I've not, they asked that you're going to create somebody who's going to create fasad on earth. And they didn't understand. Yufsidu fiha, you're going to create somebody who's going to spread fasad or corruption on earth. Now, some of the ulama interpret this that they weren't talking about Adam alayhi salam, but they understood, because the angels understood Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they knew that Allah ta'ala is not creating just an individual, Adam alayhi salam, but Allah ta'ala is creating a species. Allah ta'ala is creating the prototype of the species, but He's creating the whole species. And they also saw that He is giving the species free will. And so they also knew that if a person has free will, one of the things that some of the members of that species will do is choose fasad. And so they expressed their surprise at Allah Ta'ala. So sometimes people today also wonder, why did Allah Ta'ala create humanity? What's the point of creating people who would hurt one another, who would do evil to one another, who would cause injustice to one another, who murder one another? And in some sense, the angels had the same question. So if you will, it's a very angelic question. It's not an atheist question to ask. It's very foolish that today in philosophy say these are the questions atheists have. That why would God create humanity and give humanity the ability to do evil? This is an angelic question. Alright? And angels are not atheists. Angels believe Allah Ta'ala. Angels are hearing Allah Ta'ala at this moment when they ask the question. So there's no way angels deny the existence of Allah Ta'ala, which an atheist does. Angels are full-fledged believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an angelic question to ask. So if any human being asks this question, any Muslim asks this question, they shouldn't feel shy, or nobody should scold them and say, you're asking it. No. This is not the philosopher's question, it's the angel's question. Alright? Now the answer, which is more important, right? The answer, there's more to the angel's question, but I have to, again, I'm summarizing. The answer that Allah Ta'ala gives to this angelic question is very simple, very important. Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Okay? Allah Ta'ala says, indeed, I know what you do not know. So now, because I believe that Allah Ta'ala is the perfect being of perfect knowledge, so I'm fine. I had a question, why did Allah Ta'ala create human beings and give them the ability to harm? Or maybe not why did Allah Ta'ala give human beings the ability to do evil to others? So this answer works for me if I believe Allah Ta'ala is a perfect being with perfect knowledge and perfect wisdom and perfect justice and perfect mercy. In that case, it works. So the being who is perfect and with perfect knowledge and perfect justice and perfect mercy, in a perfection that is known only to Him and His knowledge, and that we don't know, there is some wisdom in human beings having the ability to do evil to one another. So I'm fine now, because I believe such a being exists. Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Allah Ta'ala told the angels, and this Allah Ta'ala's answer to all these philosophical questions that people have, that indeed I, Allah Ta'ala saying in Quran, قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. Indeed I, Allah Ta'ala, I know ma, all these things, la ta'lamun, that you do not know. Alright. Then immediately Allah Ta'ala has an example. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Allah Ta'ala taught Adam alayhi salam the names of everything. Right? Now there's a lot of discussion here, the names of everything in the universe or the names of a certain set of all things. But the point was that it was some knowledge that the angels didn't know. And if you remember that, Allah Ta'ala challenged the angels, tell me the names. The angels said, what did they say? An important thing to know. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma allamtana. A very important dua sentence to say. That Subhan, glory be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have no knowledge. There is no knowledge that we can even attribute to ourselves. There's no knowledge that we can even aspire to having. Except that ma allamtana, that which you have taught us. That which you have taught us. So this is a very important sentence also we should know. That even if you think I studied it, I learned it, I did the tafsir class, no, we have no knowledge except knowledge Allah Ta'ala taught us. He may have taught us through some means, through some process, through some course, through some learning, through a mind, through intelligence, through a degree, but we have no ability to acquire knowledge except, so it's humility. It's humility. And that's why the angels pray, Innaka antal alimul hakim. Indeed, you Allah Ta'ala, you are the being who is all-knowing and is all-wise. Alright. Then Allah Ta'ala turned to Adam alayhi salam and He told Adam alayhi salam to tell them of the names. Adam alayhi salam told them the names. Alright. And then finally, now we move a bit forward ahead to verse 34. Allah Ta'ala then tells the angels to do sajda to Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Alright. Now, sometimes people ask questions here that why did Allah Ta'ala ask the angels to do sajda to Adam alayhi salam when we're only supposed to do sajda to Allah Ta'ala? Alright? So I want you to understand here that Allah Ta'ala did not ask the angels to do sajda to Adam alayhi salam in the way me and you do sajda to Allah Ta'ala. In other words, it was not an act of worship. Rather, Allah Ta'ala asked the angels, listen to this very carefully, Allah Ta'ala didn't ask, Allah Ta'ala commanded the angels to do sajda to Him, Allah Ta'ala, toward Adam alayhi salam because of the knowledge that Allah Ta'ala gave Adam alayhi salam, just like Allah Ta'ala has commanded you and me to do sajda to Allah Ta'ala toward the Kaaba because of the rahmah and nur of hidayah Allah Ta'ala has sent on the Kaaba. So when we make sajda towards the Kaaba, we're not worshipping the Kaaba, we're doing sajda as an act of worship of Allah Ta'ala towards not just any place, towards the Kaaba, because the Kaaba is something special. Just like that, Allah Ta'ala told the angels to go into sajda, and any and every sajda is always and only exclusively to Allah Ta'ala. They should fall in sajda and do in worship of Allah Ta'ala towards Adam alayhi salam. The same way me and you do sajda to Allah Ta'ala towards the Kaaba. Alright? Now remember, the Kaaba is just made of brick and stone, and Adam alayhi salam is made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Alright? Okay. So this answers another question sometimes that people have. Okay. Then comes an incident which I will discuss later because the story of Adam alayhi salam will come later again in Quran al-Kareem, and that is the incident of how Adam alayhi salam and Hawa anhu leave Jannah and go down to earth. We're going to do that later when it comes elsewhere in Quran al-Kareem. Alright, next set of verses that I want to do in Surah al-Baqarah is verses 44 to 46. Verses 44 to 46. So inshallah, those of you who will regularly listen, whether now or later in life, it would be very helpful if you kept the Arabic Quran in front of you and any one of those 4 or 5 translations I mentioned if you wish, but I will be translating for you verbally. Okay, so the next verses that we're going to be are verses 44, 45, and 46. Very important. Allah Ta'ala says, verse 44, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ? That do you command, so it's very important, every word is important in Quran al-Kareem. Do you command people to bir, which is virtue and righteousness, وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ, while you forget your own selves? وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ, and all the while you recite the book, scripture? أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not have any sense? Do you not have any intelligence? Don't you have an aql? Don't you have reason? Don't you have a brain? What does this mean? So the first key word here is amr, right? So sometimes people say, should I tell something to my friend about Islam when I myself am not fully practicing? I heard that Allah Ta'ala said in Quran that you shouldn't talk to people about deen unless you're fully practicing deen. No, that's not what Allah Ta'ala said in Quran. Allah Ta'ala said in Quran, what? What did Allah say? Ta'muruna amr. Do you command people? So this is not nasiha, you can give advice. This is not sharing. This is not reminding. This is not teaching. This is not that. All these words are coming in Quran. Tadris, the word for teaching is in Quran. Tadris. The word for imparting knowledge, talim, that is in Quran. The word of advising, tazkira, nasiha, these are all words that are in the Quran and Hadith. That's not what's being mentioned here. Allah Ta'ala is saying that you command people. Do you order people? When you have forgotten your own selves, what does it mean? That you haven't even issued that command to your own self. So you cannot adopt a commanding tone with people. Alright? But yes, if you know anything about deen, and you have a friend or a family member who does not know that thing about deen, and you know that through authentic knowledge and it's verified, you must share that knowledge with those friends and family who do not have deen, who do not know that. You must share that knowledge. Even if you yourself are not fully practicing that knowledge yet, yes, you can share that knowledge. But yes, still keeping this verse in mind, you should first and foremost address yourself. Secondly, you should have shame when you address others and you have not yet practiced it yourself. Third, you should beg Allah Ta'ala and make dua to Allah Ta'ala that, Ya Allah, I'm sharing this with others. Ya Allah, you help me practice it myself. Fourth, you should make dua to Allah Ta'ala that, Ya Allah, if any of them may be better able to practice this, I can't practice it yet, but maybe if I share it to someone, they're better than me. When they find out that this is an Islamic teaching, because they're so good and they're so true and they're so sincere, they'll practice it. Maybe Allah Ta'ala, that will make you happy, and when you're happy, Ya Allah, then maybe you will make me practice it as well. And this is the in niyat and intention in which I will be teaching you anything and everything that I teach, whether in this month or in the past or in the future. Alright? This is not amr. But yes, you cannot enforce something, command something on someone when you haven't done it yourself. And this you can understand now. This is why it's so important that our rulers are muttaqeen, that the rulers are salihin, that the judges are muttaqeen, that the judges are salihin, that the people who are ulul amr, the people who, it's mentioned in Quran, the people who have been vested with power and authority, themselves must never ever forget themselves. This verse should be on top of every judge's desk, on top of every minister's desk, on top of every prime minister, president's desk, upon every such type person's desk. Alright? Okay. The other thing is that the historical original, if you will, one of the original addressees of this verse of Quran al-Kareem is also held to be some of the scholars of Ahl Kitab, because Islam does not have this concept of commanding clergy. And this is why it's very unfair to use the word clerics and clergy for ulama. Yes, Islam acknowledges knowledge and scholarship. It doesn't acknowledge a class called the clergy in the sense that they can command you, or they're intermediaries between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some of the people of Ahl Kitab, some of the scholars of Ahl Kitab who had gone astray at that point, particularly in the Jewish community at that time, some of them had this type of relationship, and Allah ta'ala is chastising them here. The next very important verse, verse 45, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, that seek the help of Allah ta'ala. Remember, إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, seek the help of Allah ta'ala. How? بِالصَّبْرِ, through sabr, patience, endurance, fortitude, perseverance, وَالصَّلَاةِ, and through praying the established mandatory salah. And then Allah ta'ala says after that, وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِئِينَ. This is verse 45. And that's really hard. La kabira, and indeed, truly, that is tremendously hard. Very hard and difficult, except for those people who khashi'een, those people who are humble. So what does it mean? What's the lesson for us? If somebody says, "Oh, I'm not strong enough to follow Deen," there's no strength you need humility. I'm not strong enough to do sabr. There's no strength you need humility. I'm not passionate enough about Islam to pray salah. It's not passion you need, it's humility. Humility is what opens. Why? Because humility doesn't give us strength. Humility attracts the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. And then Allah Ta'ala gives the strength. Allah Ta'ala gives the himmah, the tawfiq, the strength to do sabr and salah because we're humble. This is the truest, highest character virtue, is humility. And this is the greatest humility, was with the greatest human being, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The greatest humility. Alright, so very important. And then finally, verse 46, the next verse, Allah Ta'ala explains to us how to get humility. الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ, that they're those people who think about this. They have done, they're always imagining this. It's in their consciousness. It's in their consciousness, in their mind. They always reckon this. What? أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ, that indeed they're going to meet their Rabb. وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, and indeed that they're going to return to their Rabb. So the liqa with the Rabb, ruju towards the Rabb. That's how they become humble. So humility isn't done through watching some TEDx talk on some guy who's talking about humility. Maybe it might help you get an idea of being humble in terms of maybe dunya or in career, but to be humble in front of Allah, that's the humility that we're talking about. Khashi'een, those who are humble in front of Allah. How do they get that humility? They're always imagining, reckoning, conscious of the fact that they're going to meet their Rabb, and that to their Rabb alone will they return. أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Even this is now when we talk about dhikr. Dhikr can also mean that if there's a verse that you find in Quran that is giving you the guidance, you can recite it a few times to yourself. There's no set number. Slowly ponder upon it. Let yourself experience the sound of it, right? Recite it out loud. Enjoy the sound of it. Reflect, look, stare at the letters, the nuqush, the drawing of the Arabic letters that represent Kalamullah. Listen to it from some qari. Look at the translation. Think of the commentary. Ponder upon it. Memorize it. Offer it in salah. If we do that with these verses, then these verses can penetrate our heart and we can get this humility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright? Okay, then thereafter, just summarizing again, there are going to be there's then a lot of content about Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and I can't, this is in a very great detail. Some of that I will do when it's repeated later in Quran. I'm just going to pluck out certain important teachings, again, especially for an English language audience. So I'm going to move now to verse 65. Okay? In verse 65, there's one particular punishment that is mentioned for some of those people who were alive at the time of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and that they had disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, specifically in a teaching that Allah ta'ala had prescribed for them, which is known as the observance of the Sabbath. Right? And there's this practice has remained, at least in Orthodox and I think maybe conservative Jews as well, but not in Reformed or secular liberal or non-practicing cultural Jews. Right? And so the Sabbath for them was what you would call like the Islamic Saturday, means from Friday Maghrib to Saturday Maghrib, from sunset Friday to Saturday to sunset Saturday. And there are certain restrictions that were placed in the laws of the Prophet Moses, Musa alayhi salam. But some of the people at his time, in his lifetime, they violated those laws. So Allah Ta'ala talks about them. وَلَقَدْ أَلِمْتُمْ, and indeed you knew, الَّذِينَ تَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ, and indeed وَلَقَدْ أَلِمْتُمُ الَّذِينَ تَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ, and indeed you knew about those who from amongst you who transgressed against the Sabt, which is the teachings and laws and rules and regulations of what is called the Sabbath in English. Okay? So, and Allah Ta'ala then punished them historically, that those individuals at the time of Musa alayhi salam. What was the punishment? فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ, that Allah Ta'ala says that we proclaim to them in all of our might and majesty, what? Kunu kiradatan, that you should become apes. You will be turned into apes. So remember, when Allah Ta'ala wants to create something, kun fayakun, He simply issues His command be, and it becomes. Kunu kiradatan khasi'in. So this is different. They weren't khashi'in, so they became khasi'in. They weren't khashi'in, they didn't humble themselves in front of Allah Ta'ala's commands and obey, so they became khasi'in. Khasi'in means they became despised. They became despised to Allah Ta'ala. They became outcast. They became, abominable, abhorrent. Alright? Okay. Why am I highlighting this particular verse? I'm highlighting this particular verse for just to raise an interesting possibility. And the interesting possibility here is that sometimes, there's this fossil theory of quote-unquote human evolution. And Islam teaches us that the first human being is Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Now, Islam does not necessarily describe to us what the fossil skeletal structure of the first descendants of Adam alayhi salam was. So that's left open. But what is critical is that the first human being, Nabi Adam alayhi salam, did not have a father or a mother. And atheist scientists who believe in the fossil theory of human evolution, they say the first human being evolved after being born to a highly advanced primate, ape, orangutan form of father and mother. So the key difference between these two accounts is, number one, that Islam says the first human being had no father and no mother, not even a human father and mother, and was created directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The atheistic theory of the atheistic fossil theory of human evolution is that the first human being was not created directly by God, but was born to parents. But those parents were not human. They were the last evolutionary stage of some type of advanced primate, and then they gave birth to a human being. All right? And so one question is, one possible answer to these fossils and skeletons that they discover and they say, or Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthal man, etc., is maybe they're just digging up the skeletal remnants of these individuals, and they may be very few in number. It's not all the Jews at that time. These particular individuals who violated the Sabbath, and Allah punished them by changing their creation into an ape form. Maybe it's just their fossils and the descendants of them that are being discovered. All right. If you're interested in more about evolution, so there is a scholar that I respect very much. His name is Mufti Zamilur Rahman, and on White Thread Institute he has a series of lectures on Islam and evolution. and the Islamic understanding versus the this Islam and the science of evolution. Just very quickly, I tell you, Islam accepts actually everything that science says about all types of evolutionary processes as they pertain to any and all species, except for the human being, except for the original creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. All right? Okay, I wanted to pluck that verse out for you. Next verse I want to show is verse number 74. Just one aspect of verse number 74, which is وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ لَمَا يَتَفَجَّرُ مِنْهُ الْأَنْهَارُ. All right, and this is this longer verse. That's not all of verse 74. Allah Ta'ala mentions about the hearts that harden, that even the stones fall down because of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala is saying that do you have hearts that are even harder than stones? I wanted to mention this verse for a couple of reasons. Number one, it shows that Allah Ta'ala's creation does worship Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation worships Him, even what we technically call inanimate creation, which are stones. And the second is that Allah Ta'ala is warning us lest we have hearts that are hardened. What does it mean that our hearts are harder than stone? That even after hearing Quran, receiving Quran, meeting the Prophet ﷺ, or learning about Islam, we still cannot fall down and worship Allah Ta'ala out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of humility. Then that means our hearts are even harder than stones. Alright, so I'm going to stop here for today, and then so that those who are listening live, and then I'm actually going to record and upload the rest of the gems of the first juz before class tomorrow, inshallah. So between now and tomorrow 3 p.m. I will record and upload Gems of the Quran Juz 1 Part 2. And as I said, in the first few juz we may have to go a bit over time, but I'm hoping by juz 7 or so we can remain within time. And when this happens, so I will make sure I stop by 5 no matter what, inshallah, and then I will just record the rest on my own and upload that to the YouTube channel for all of you to listen. May Allah Ta'ala accept our sitting with one another in this manner and trying to learn Quran al-Kareem, and may Allah Ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq to practice Quran al-Kareem, and may Allah Ta'ala enable us to make the most of this month of Ramadan. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.